Welcome, everybody. Lots of authoritarianism and creeping fascistic ideas that we have to talk about today. Universities around the country are now warning their international students who are away for winter break, basically telling them, hey, I know you're on winter break and all, but you may want to sort of hustle back to the United States and get into the country before Donald Trump is inaugurated later in January, puts that hand on the Bible again. And who knows what he does with regard to the student visas on which many of these international students have legal status here in the United States. Donald Trump has made it clear that just because someone has a form of legal status, that doesn't mean that he respects it. And it doesn't mean that he thinks you should be here. We, of course, saw this with the Springfield, Ohio migrants who have temporary protected status. They are here legally to the extent that they have claimed asylum and their cases are being adjudicated. Trump doesn't like that. It has nothing to do with Biden or Harris. Of course, this is based on an infrastructure of law that has been around since the early 90s, granting temporary protected status. And Trump is talking about certainly not renewing that status, and maybe even better, according to Trump, eliminating it altogether. Given that, and we think back, of course, to the first time that Donald Trump took office, where he wasted no time sort of slamming the door on a lot of people with that majority Muslim country travel ban. Remember, we can't call it a Muslim travel ban because it was not about religious belief. It was about country of origin. But of course, it only targeted countries that are majority Muslim. Anyway, now, schools of all places are trying to be proactive, and good for them. It's better to be proactive than reactive. And they're warning these students that if you don't hurry back, it's conceivable that you could get stuck outside of the country during the next immigration crackdown 2.0 that will include the militarized mass deportations and so many other things. And the schools are saying we won't be able to help you if that happens. Now, in addition to this, we are also seeing immigration lawyers advising people with valid work visas, if you are away for the holidays, for vacation, for the end of the year, you also may want to rush back to the United States and get back on U.S. soil before Donald Trump's inauguration, just in case. We all remember how the first term of Trump started, which was people were shut out at airports. Remember the chaos of people arriving, people on planes, when the Muslim majority country travel ban went into effect, landing and being in this, it's almost like Tom Hanks in Terminal kind of situation. Students, workers, families were separated. And the principle at play for which schools are saying, get here now, and for which employers are saying, get here now if you have a valid work visa, is that it is harder to deport someone once they're here, if they have legal status, than it is to just slam the door in their face at customs and say, you've got to go back to your country. And that's why schools and employers are saying it might be a good idea to get here before January 20th. It's not really a paranoid conspiracy theory, because we know what happened during Donald Trump's first term. It's the lived reality from 2017 and the dread that then lasted 4 years, and that we might have for 4 years again, and wondering what level of inhumanity will the tactics employed display. Other schools, so we have a list of schools here with the most international students, and it's NYU, Northeastern, Columbia, Arizona State. It's a long list. Not every one of these schools is choosing to draw attention to themselves, because that's the other risk. If you start putting out statements and then they go public, we're urging people to get back here and get back here quick. The risk is you bring attention onto yourself. And there are some schools who are saying, we're not going to say anything. Hopefully nobody will pay attention to us and all of our students will be able to get back here. But it's a sort of better safe than sorry approach. And it's a humiliating reminder of what is likely coming for the next 4 years. There is also a real contradiction here, as is often the case with MAGA, between the image of America as a nation of immigrants and the reality of telling people who have obtained legal status, hey, you might want to hurry back here before the political climate sours once again. And the US is a country that prides itself on being the land of opportunity. And then you see these warnings from schools and you say, yeah, land of opportunity, very precarious, depending on where the political winds are and how they are shifting. And everything becomes fragile when Trump comes into power. The Paris Climate Agreement, we were part of it. Trump says, I don't like it. The Iran deal, Iran didn't violate it. Trump says, I don't like it, we're getting out. Shared defense of NATO allies, of course we do that. Well, Trump says, I don't know. I just don't think that they're paying their fair share. If Trump doesn't like it, then he just goes back on the word of the United States. Now, there's one other angle here. You know how Trump is the economy guy? This is another example of how the policy is not good for the economy. Later in the show, we're going to do a much deeper dive about the disastrous effect on the economy if Trump were to deport every undocumented immigrant. It would be a disaster for the economy. We've already talked a little bit about how bad for the economy deporting immigrants is, both legal and undocumented. We've talked about the blanket tariffs being bad for the economy. The story that's building here is that despite the bill of goods that Trump was able to sell to his base, and even to some people who were not really in Trump's base, but they weren't sold on Kamala Harris, the policies that he sold are terrible for the economy. And these bans are also bad. These restrictions and uncertainties don't just affect the students themselves, but they hamper research, innovation, they foment the brain drain, where if Trump were successful at keeping some of these international students out, I mean, just think about it. The people from around the world that are getting into NYU, Northeastern, Columbia, all these schools, these are people who, if they go to school here, they often will stay working here, and they participate in innovation and in the economy. And instead we're saying, take the smarts and go somewhere else. So that's where we are. It's a disturbing reality, but it's what we might be facing for the next 4 years. That's with college students. Let's now go a little younger and talk about younger kids. Well, I wrote a book after a long journey and a ton of work. I am really thrilled with how it turned out, and I hope you'll read it. The book is called The Echo Machine, and in a nutshell, it looks at how American politics got so broken, who has already figured out solutions, and how we can try to fix it and stop the terror of Trump for the next 4 years. With Trump winning this election, The Echo Machine couldn't be more relevant, not only a warning about how we got here, but also about what might be coming and how to prevent the worst outcomes. We've got to stay engaged. We need a plan, and that's what the book is about. There's a belief out there that unless you have corporate media behind you, you can't have a successful political book launch, that it's not possible. I think we can prove that wrong. Order The Echo Machine today at davidpakman.com/echo on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Audible, Kindle, anywhere that books, ebooks, and audiobooks are sold. You can also call any local bookstore and say, please order me The Echo Machine by David Pakman. Wherever you get the book, you'll get the free pre-order perks, including the signed book plate. Head to davidpakman.com/free book stuff after ordering.